We lived just across the road from my granny and grandpa, and they had a lot of stories. Even when you're little girls, I was always trying to listen to what they were saying, trying to understand. And this one day they weren't too happy. And I was listening, and they were talking about asuta bagay na. I didn't know what that was, so I kept listening to them. And I didn't really get the gist of their conversation because I was little and running in and out. And later, in later years, I asked my grandpa what that meant, what a sutamagewina was. And they told me the treaties.
And Treaty 5, like, we didn't know it was the number Treaty 5 at the time, it's just the treaty making process itself. That the thing that was mentioned to me, when you look at the treaty medal, in the treaty medal, there's two people in there, a European and the Anishinaabe person. In the middle is the axe. And I was always told that the axe represents two things. One is you're giving up your arms to fight any war. So it was a peace treaty that we were making. And the amount of land was used by the depth of the axe, the axe head itself. It was always told to me that's how much land that the Europeans would be able to use when they came over so that they would grow their crops. Now, in signing of the treaty, basically that's not the way it was worded because they couldn't understand English. And the interpreters that they had really couldn't interpret that giving up or relinquishing your title to the land, that they did not think that they were doing. What they thought they were doing was they were going to share the land with other sources. Basically, like I said, they were adapting to farming and cattle ranching, and so they knew they needed more land as we grew. So it was not, we weren't a dependency nation where we requested our nation. As a matter of fact, when our treaty was signed, it was not signed in Black River, it was signed in the city of Winnipeg. And hence comes Treaty 5, City of Winnipeg Treaty. But how it was signed, it's questionable.
Even I don't know who interpreted for our people, but some of the English language, you can't interpret those in Cree. Whereas in our language, everything's so specific. To me, it's just an agreement, a promise that, we're sharing this land. The treaties are more important now because we're in a place where everything's taken away from us, our livelihood, our culture, our way of life. All those things are being taken away from us, and I think now is the time to say enough is enough. We want to get back to these things before we lose all of it.
I do recall my dad sharing some of the stories of that we are one big island band with Hollow Water, Blood Vein, Little Black River in there. And then we separated into smaller individual bands. And then the person that signed our adhesion wasn't the chief of the First Nation, actually. So that was a big miscommunication there. So that was a big stickler. So we're not even actually signed as an adhesion to Treaty 5. So I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but there was a document, some documents that were done from Rory Horkowitz. He was a historian for Treaty 5. So that was another, I guess, misstep in the government's part. So he wouldn't be left out of any processes with anything that has to do with the land, the lake, the water. That fishing's the big one.
the chiefs, I think, are just waking up to a lot of these issues today. You know, they were there all along, but they never acknowledged, because us, the people, the grassroots people, were the ones that lived this way of life, trying to maintain our balance, what we have, what was given, what our ancestors did for us. They made an everlasting agreement with the government back in the day. They didn't know about it because they didn't have no education, no writing. They just used basically the things that they worship, the way Jesus. You can know about the sun. So come in our way. Nipe CP1 sagaigan batin siwan. So come in our way maskus siwan. In there, kind of towing again over the grass, the sun, the rivers, and the grass that grows today. That's what they based their the signing of that treaty they made. The ones that signed, that's what they said. As long as the sun shines, rivers flow, the grass grows. An everlasting thing for it never to end. You know, we still see our grandfather's son today.
My Anishinaabe name is Low Flying Thunderbird. I am of the Fish Clan, namely a sturgeon, and I am from Bloodvein River First Nation. I was born and raised in Bloodvein, and I born through midwifery. Two of my aunties and my granny were involved in my coming into this world. And and I've been living in the community all my life, pretty much, except for 7 or 8 years when I was gone. I went to school in Winnipeg. But having been in Bloodvein River, Mesquivesy being born and raised there, my granddad played a major part in my upbringing as well. When he often talked about the land and how important it was to keep and maintain our land and to keep it from being destructed, I guess, by industrialism, mining, forestry. And it was important to me and to some of the people that I was involved with. We spoke often together, and what we would like to see happen within our land, and how we could keep our elders as well, who played a lead role in informing us how important the land was to our community, and how important it was for us to keep and maintain our land from industrialism. And which is why when my granddad said that it would be our generation forthcoming for us to protect it, that I started to take a lead role in it within the community with the guys my age group, people my age group, and but it's been challenging at the same time because of the lack of understanding, I guess, what land actually meant to our community, to our elders, and what it's starting to mean to me now. I'm starting to understand it now, what they talked about, what they often spoke about. Not only to our communities, but to the non-Indigenous people, I feel should know if they're receptive to wanting to understand our ways. And that's the only way I see the working relationship, the collaboration between the non-Indigenous and our First Nations people is ever going to work, is that they need to start working together and understanding one another. And non-Indigenous people having to accept our ways as our ways of wanting to protect and manage our traditional territories. And they need to understand why it is that we want to protect our traditional territories, because what I've heard people say is that our traditional areas within our reserve boundaries is almost like a pharmacy to us. That's where our medicine is. That's where we pick our medicines. And that's why we want to protect our air, keep it natural and pristine, away from pollution. Because once our natural medicines is poisoned, if you will, or polluted, it's not going to work. Which is why people now, like Black River, Hollow Water, go to distances to get the spring water. And I met Warren Bird from Black River going to a place close by here to get spring water and take it back home and use it in their ceremonies. So that's why our people are always saying, our First Nations people are always saying that we need to protect our trees, we need to protect our land, and people need to know why we want to protect our land. Is to keep our medicines pure and pristine. So it's important that the communities start working together, collaborating like the 5 communities I just mentioned, and we need more of that. And when the communities, I've heard communities leaders in the past speak of empowerment, and it's fine to mention that it's a big word and it's a very important word, and but I've yet to see it being implemented in our communities, because some of the leadership are still making the decisions on their own, and we need that collaboration, we need that communication, and the support for one another, and that needs to happen. And I do see some improvement, but there is lots that needs to be done yet, and I believe we can do it, because the elders have said in the past, the answers are here. Why go and seek him somewhere else when we have them?